This is New England Nation.
Hey everyone, welcome into a very special edition of New England Nation Double OT. This is a web series that we do, and it's typically a little bit of a debate show, but more of a discussion today, we'll say. I'm Ruthie Polinsky alongside Yanni Krokis and Maury Hirsch-Gordon, and we're going to get into a variety of topics looking ahead at the Patriots playoff run, and we'll start with you, Yanni. Which team do you think is the best matchup for the Patriots?
All right, so as we tape this here on a Thursday evening, it's Houston, Baltimore, LA Chargers. I don't want to see the Chargers. They're a team who had a better record than the Patriots, and I think they have it going right now, especially offensively. I've toyed between Baltimore and Houston because rookie quarterback, as well as Lamar Jackson, has been playing, I think, 6-1. A rookie quarterback coming into Foxborough, I just don't trust them. But I'm actually going to go with Houston because the Patriots own the Texans. I don't think Tom Brady has lost to them in their existence. They were here week one. There's some familiarity there, and Bill Belichick just sort of is in their head, I think. They just haven't been able to come here and have a whole lot of success. So I'm between Baltimore and Houston, but I'm going to go with the Texans.
So I'm between two teams, but it's the opposite. I think it's the Chargers and it's the Texans. And the reason why it is because I think the Chargers have won 7 games on the road this year, and they have a win in London, so that's a good win away from home on a neutral field. But I think you got to go with the Texans, like Yanni said. I mean, the Patriots have historically owned the Texans of late in the playoffs, even though Brock Osweiler did start one of those playoff games. But I think the Texans, coming from a warm weather place, I just don't think they can win a big game in them. I don't want to face the Ravens. I think Terrell Suggs, Jim Harbaugh, that defense, the number 1 defense in the league, wouldn't be scared to come to Gillette.
Those were my thoughts exactly. The Ravens defense is a little scary to me, and as of late, a little bit unfamiliar of a team.
Yeah, haven't played in a couple years.
I like the Texans coming into Foxborough. I think that would be a choke for them waiting to happen, especially with Deshaun Watson and the Patriots' success against those young rookie quarterbacks.
But don't you feel like in some way Houston's almost due? I don't feel great. Honestly, I don't. Of all the divisional matchups compared to recent years, this is the toughest slate of potential teams, I think, in the last few years.
Here's the thing. The Patriots are undefeated in Foxborough. The only NFL team to go undefeated at home during the regular season. I don't feel that terrible about any team coming there.
Right.
I think in terms of matchup-wise, I don't want to see the Ravens. I do like seeing the Texans, and I like, Phillip Rivers, come on.
You're not buying into him.
Just the emotion and the sometimes lack of composure.
But hey, give them. They've won in tough spots. They won in Kansas City. They won at the LA. Did they win at? I'm thinking of other road wins.
I'm not bought into Phillip Rivers.
All right.
So I think Phillip Rivers, if you face him, there's kind of that desperate, side of him because it's only the second time the Chargers have been in the playoffs since like 2009. So it could be Rivers' last shot at a Super Bowl. You probably wouldn't want to face them in that case either.
Okay, a lot of rumors spreading around about who could be in Foxborough next year. This is way looking ahead. Who could be in Foxborough? Obviously, Josh McDaniels up for a head coaching job. Brian Flores, the de facto defensive coordinator, is also up for a couple jobs. And then we look at some guys that are maybe on the brink of retirement, shall I say, Rob Gronkowski. So McDaniels, Flores, Gronk, who's coming back in 2019?
I think Flores is back. I think he's maybe a year away. He's the linebackers coach. He's calling the plays, but he's not even a coordinator. So I think he needs a little bit more on his resume before a team hands him the car keys. I think Gronk's gone. I do. I think a surprise to all of us last year at the Super Bowl when that sort of came out, but I think he's really labored through this year, much like he did last year where he said he's just not having as much fun. And I think it all comes down to health. He has to work so hard to just get out on the field, and he's not the player he was. So if he's 70% of what he was, I think mentally it's been a challenge for him this year, knowing he isn't getting the separation and making the plays he can. So I think Gronk retires at the end of this year.
Regardless when they lose the Super Bowl.
Regardless. It'd be great if they won and he goes out on top. I think McDaniels, I think he's gone.
Tough.
You think
he's gone? I think he's gone.
I think he's gone.
You know why? Because if he doesn't go this year, how long does this pony show go for?
Let us remind
where you interview and you don't take the job and then you're back. Because listen, they gave him head coaching job as a coordinator last year, $4 or $5 million to come back. It doesn't seem like last year when stuff SHIT was hitting the fan, so to speak, maybe Belichick at the end of the road. It doesn't seem like Belichick is leaving anytime soon. So if McDaniels isn't the successor, I think the time is now for him. Clearly, teams are still interested in his services despite spurning the Colts.
Yeah, so let us remind our viewers that Josh McDaniels basically accepted the job as the head coach of Indianapolis, and then after the Super Bowl last minute, backed out, supposedly had a meeting with Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft, basically said, you know, there were rumors that they basically told Josh McDaniels, hey, when Bill's out, you are the head coach. That was the rumor, obviously not confirmed. However, I do want to say that I am floored, absolutely floored, that any team took a chance on Josh McDaniels. And there was an interesting conversation about this, because, you know, a lot of teams say, oh, that stuff happens there. That he would never do that to us. There's kind of that mentality,
right.
I think, when you're looking at other teams giving Josh McDaniels an opportunity to be the head coach of their franchise. I am just floored. I would stay away from that guy with a 10-foot pole when it comes to hiring him.
So if I'm the Packers, I guess I give Josh McDaniels a real hard look, because he coached Brady. He had a lot of success with Brady. Aaron Rodgers is still in the prime of his career for a couple more years. So I think the only chance that he leaves for a head coaching job would be a situation where you have a franchise quarterback signed. You don't have to go through the hoopla of, is he going to come back? Is he not? What's the money situation, the year situation going to be like? So I think if there's one person in this discussion of the three names, I think he could leave. I think Brian Flores, like Yanni said, a year away. In my opinion, 2 or 3 years away. I think you have to be a defensive coordinator, and you have to earn the trust of people that your defense is here to stay. Yes, the Patriots defense has improved, but I don't think it's been for a long enough time to really show people that you can have sustained success. And I do think, on a quick note, I think Gronk does come back, win or lose. If Tom Brady's back in New England next year in 2019, I think Gronk comes back.
A lot of people think that. I think if the Patriots win the Super Bowl, regardless of Tom Brady's status, Gronk's done.
The other thing back to McDaniels is, this could be his last shot. Most coaches don't get 2 head coaching jobs. He flamed out in Denver. So do you want to go somewhere more established, like you said, with a good quarterback? And we don't think he's interviewing for the Browns or Jets. Maybe those jobs are more appealing to other people. But if he can't wait on the maturation of those guys, those rookie quarterbacks, then maybe he's throwing away his second shot.
I love the Browns job and the Jets job. Those are 2 great.
Not great ownership, but good.
Not great ownership, but great situations.
Yeah.
I mean, for the Jets, maybe the end of New England, you can kind of taste it and feel it. And then, of course, with Cleveland, who's on the up and rise, especially with Baker Mayfield. Okay.
And Pittsburgh on the downfall.
Of course. Okay, to say the least. What version of Tom Brady are we going to see in the playoffs? And this is obviously looking at his season. We've seen some highs, we've seen some lows. Is this the end? What do you think?
So I think we're going to see a good Tom Brady. I think we need to see the Tom Brady that we saw in Week 17 against the Jets. I think we need to see a Tom Brady that completes a lot of high percentage throws early and often. I know we mentioned this on New England Nation. He needs to complete the swing passes, the screens, the easy slants, and then take a shot over the top. We saw Rex Burkhead. He had a nice little feather over the top to him. You can take those shots once the high percentage throws are established. And clearly the run game needs to be at an all-time high, like when they played against the Jets and Sony Michel had a career high 133 yards. That needs to be established early on to kind of open up the holes.
I expect a really good Tom Brady. You know why? Because the Patriots have this encyclopedia of play calls and institutional knowledge, and I think over the years, as they've continued to have success, they hold some plays and they hold some wrinkles back. And if the running game can be consistent, that opens up play action. And I think while they'd still rather have Josh Gordon, Brady sort of started to fixate on him a little bit. And now the mantra with Brady in the early years of his career was he throws to the open receiver, not necessarily the best receiver. So he spread it around a lot in that Jets game. He looked great. Now, it was against the Jets, but I expect him to be his old MVP self. I think he's going to be good.
And I don't doubt that there's possibly a phenomenal Gronk game left in these last couple games of his career, perhaps. I think that, especially having the bye week, he looked a little bit better against the Jets. And I think there's just some fire maybe building up in him. He seems confident. His attitude just feels better. I think he's feeling physically better. So I think that obviously affects how Tom Brady feels on the field as well. His favorite weapon over the years.
And credit to the offensive line. Brady has been having great pressure.
I was going to say, as long as Tom Brady's protected, I think he'll be all right.
And I don't doubt the competitor in Brady doesn't want to go on the road maybe this year and get back to the Super Bowl and maybe prove people wrong that 11-5 I know isn't standard here in New England. It's 12 wins, 13 wins and higher every year. But I think he maybe wants to go on the road. And imagine if they could beat the Chiefs on the road, what that would put to the haters that had them done it at 1-2, and then after the miracle in Miami and the pitiful performance in Pittsburgh.
He spoke to the media on Thursday, and I thought he was very honest. And I liked he said, we've resolved adversity. People counted us out. When was the last time the Patriots had any sort of underdog mentality?
Right.
And it feels like they're sort of grabbing onto that.
And it also kind of lets you know that they hear what people are saying, which you love.
You know what it is? It's their buddies texting them and family members like, "Did you hear what they're saying about you on the radio?"
Sure.
I don't know if he's watching the news at night.
But I think it affects them, and I think that makes the Patriots and Brady better. I just think that's when he spoke to the media, it felt like a flip
of the switch.
A light switch had been turned on, like, okay, it's playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, he was laser focused, really detailed about how important details are in the playoffs. And I loved when he was talking about, in my career, I've seen how the tiniest little play can affect a game. And that, that he's preaching that to the locker room. And there are very few people that I'd rather listen to lecture me than Tom Brady if I'm, in that locker room. All right, so switching gears to the defensive side of the ball. Last year, it felt like the defense was really untrustworthy.
Did you see the Super Bowl, Ruthie?
I did, but there were some highs and lows, as there tends to be. This year, do you think the Patriots defense is underrated? Can the Patriots defense win them a game?
I think they are underrated. If you take away the losses, that's a big caveat, right? But they've mostly held good teams in the teens. They held the Chiefs. That was in the 30s.
Yeah.
They held the Packers. They held the Vikings into the teens. Buffalo and the Jets recently. They're getting much better pressure on the quarterback than in recent years. I read some article. They're up there. They're in the top 5, top 10 in pressure at the quarterback. Stephon Gilmore has been unbelievable this year. Obviously, with Harmon, McCourty back there, nothing is really getting over the top. So I think they've been more creative in showing some different looks. I don't think they're a vaunted defense by any, but in 2018, who is?
Right.
Can they win them a game? If another team is trying to win a game-winning touchdown, I don't know. I'd still rather have Brady with the ball in his hands than Rivers or someone else or Mahomes going against my defense. But I think they're good enough to keep an opposition in the 20s, and then you let Brady get into the 30s.
No doubt. I think, we know what we're going to get from them up front. I think we know what we're going to get with them, deep in the back with Stephon Gilmore and the likes. But I think the Patriots defense is at their best when we don't talk about the linebackers, when they're making the good plays, because early on in the season, it was Dante Hightower can't fly from one side of the field to the other. He looks really slow. Well, we haven't talked about the linebackers much in the last couple weeks, and I think that's, a good sign for them, I think, for that core as well as the rest of the defense. I don't think they can necessarily win you a game. I like your point of I'd much rather have Tom Brady have the ball in his hands late. But if they are at home, I think they can pull something out. I think they can slow teams down. And they know the offense can't go score 35, 40 points like most Patriot teams of old could do. So I think if they keep a game in the high teens or the low 20s, I think Tom Brady can score enough points.
Let me tell you a little fun fact, okay? Other than the Miami game, the miracle in Miami, the Patriots' last game against the Jets, the defense allowed 3 points. The Bills, 12. The Steelers, which they lost that game, but they only let Ben Roethlisberger and the talented Steelers team score 17 points. You got to win that game if you're the Patriots. The Miami game will nix. They let the Vikings score 10 points, and the Jets 13. So that's just all after the bye week. So this Patriots defense is solid, if you ask me, especially solid in Foxborough, and that's the important part.
And the two things: red zone, keep them to field goals, not touchdowns, and turnovers.
But no break. Yep.
So they can let up the yards. Let up the yards in between the 20s. If you're good in the red zone and you get some turnovers, then they're fine.
Absolutely. Okay. NFL playoff predictions. I'm just going to leave this open-ended, okay? So you can say either, where do the Patriots fall? Where do they win? Where do they lose? Who do you see them playing? And at what point? This is very open-ended.
All right, we'll start wild card weekend this weekend. AFC, I have Chargers beating Baltimore.
Okay.
I have Houston beating Indy. So then I have Patriots, Texans, and I have Chargers, Chiefs. I'm going to pick the Chiefs to beat the Chargers, Patriots to beat the Texans, and then I have the Chiefs beating the Patriots in Arrowhead. In the NFC, I have Seattle going to Dallas.
It hurt him physically.
Seattle going to Dallas and winning. I have your Eagles going to Chicago winning. Then I have the 1 and the 2 seeds, the LA Rams and the Saints going on. I have Saints going to the Super Bowl. I have Saints Chiefs. My one sort of hedge on this bet is if the Chiefs don't get to the AFC Championship game, I think the Patriots clearly win the AFC Championship game at home. But if they have to go to KC, I'm picking the Chiefs.
So I like the road dogs on both sides other than the Colts. So I like in the AFC, I like the Texans and I like the Chargers, like Yanni said. I like the Seahawks to beat the Cowboys, and I like the Eagles to beat the Bears. Then the next round in the divisional weekend, I have the Patriots and the Chiefs, and I have the Saints in a close one over the Eagles against the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks go and beat the Rams. And then in the AFC and NFC championship rounds, I have the Chiefs beating the Patriots, like I predicted at the beginning of the season, that the Patriots would lose in the AFC championship. And I have the Seahawks beating the Saints in New Orleans. I think this something about Russell Wilson and something about them this year. He has been so good, and he hasn't really been talked about much like he was kind of earlier in his career. So I think it's going to be Seahawks against the Chiefs in a great game, and we saw that game a couple Sundays ago on Sunday Night Football in Seattle, Chiefs Seahawks, and it was a great game, and I'd be highly entertained.
Okay, I'm not going to go through every game because it's a lot. I wouldn't be shocked to see the Chargers beat the Chiefs and the Patriots host the AFC Championship, which would send them to the Super Bowl because
I can agree with that route.
It wouldn't shock me.
Is the Chiefs.
It wouldn't shock me. The caveat is the Chiefs. If the Patriots have to go to Kansas City, I feel less good about it, but I also feel really good about the Patriots in the playoffs, as anyone should be terrified to face or host that team. And yes, the Patriots have played extremely well at home. They've struggled on the road. There's no lie. But they've already played the Chiefs.
They're not going to be afraid going there.
They're not going to be afraid going there. There's no afraid. I don't think they do that emotion. But I think I like the Saints in the Super Bowl.
Saints.
And I love the idea of a Brady Breeze Super Bowl kind of towards the end of Brady's career. Who knows about Breeze?
They played last year in New Orleans, I think week 2.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Pats win that game?
Yes, they did. And they played each other in college too. Big Ten. Woot woot. Go Blue. So that's it. Is that it?
That's it.
Do you, anything
We're doing
else
this
you want
next
to
week
touch
too,
on?
right?
No.
We are going to do this next week.
We'll have our matchup.
A special playoff edition of New England Nation Double OT. Yanni Krokis and Ruthie Polinsky and Maury Hirsch-Gordon. Enjoy the bye week.